Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here's the video that you came here for. With a story that we talked about actually quite a bit before I left on vacation. And then I went on vacation and it got awfully quiet. And that is the recruitment of Ron Holland, a player many believe to be the #1 high school player in America in the class of 2023. So I think everybody kind of knows the story by now, but a quick, refresher for people who have not been paying close attention. But Ron Holland, class of 2023. So this is a kid that's literally going to enroll in college in about a month from now, when players return for summer school and all that. He had been committed to Texas for about 7-8 months now. I think he committed back in late September, early October, whatever. Again, a McDonald's All-American, 6'8" forward, really, really good player. What was interesting, though, was a few things. Is that, one, he stayed committed even after Chris Beard got arrested, even after Chris Beard got fired, even after Rodney Terry got the head coaching job full-time. And so for all intents and purposes, it seemed as though Ron Holland was set to go to Texas until about 2 weeks ago, when the last weekend in April, seemingly out of nowhere, Ron Holland announces that he has decommitted from Texas and asked out of his letter of intent. And so as we've learned all spring, usually these things get resolved pretty quick or things start to move, right? At the very least, when a player opens up his recruitment, you hear of a list of schools that have reached out, you hear a visit set up, and of course, you ultimately hear about a commitment. Well, we saw a list shortly after he decommitted. Now, I will say, I said the day that he decommitted, I said it's probably going to be either Arkansas or the G League Ignite professional route. Everybody followed my lead 2-3 days later and said, oh, it's Arkansas or G League Ignite. It's like, yeah, you follow Torres. He told you that back up, the day that Ron Holland decommitted. Neither here nor there. But I bring it up to say that the Holland recruitment has been very quiet since he decommitted. We got a short list the day after. We saw a picture of him working out with Jordan Walsh, the Arkansas Razorbacks player that's currently testing the NBA draft waters. But it's been very quiet. I think a lot of people are wondering why. Well, if you're watching this video, I think you probably know, or if you're listening on the podcast, you probably know by now, we got a report late last week that started to shed light on what is taking so long and why there is literally or seemingly no movement in Ron Holland's recruitment. It came from Horns 24/7, which is the 24/7 sports site that covers Texas. Obviously, Ron Holland was committed to Texas, and they put out a lengthy report, but this was the piece of information that you needed to know. Essentially, there's been no movement on Ron Holland's recruitment because Texas, as of right now, has not released Ron Holland from his letter of intent. In other words, schools can contact him if they want, but as of right now, he is by rule, I guess you call it legally if you want. I don't know if legal is the right term, but under NCAA jurisdiction, he is still technically bound to Texas. And so the question becomes, why is Texas not letting him out of his letter of intent? Well, according to the 24/7 Horns report, or Horns 24/7, excuse me, here is why. This is an exact quote from that report. It says, it doesn't sound as if Texas is trying to hold up Holland. Their administration is just making sure that there hasn't been any foul play. What does that mean? Well, one, first of all, if it says it doesn't sound like Texas is trying to hold up Holland, I'll tell you this. It sure sounds to me like Texas is trying to hold up Holland, but I get it. It is a Texas website that is reporting this. Obviously, their information is coming from the Texas Athletic Department. But what's more interesting is that second part. They're just making sure there hasn't been any foul play. In other words, for people who can't read between the lines, they want to make sure nobody's tampering with Ron Holland and nobody tampered to get him into a situation where he decommits from Texas and opens up his recruitment. And so that is why we have seemingly not gotten any real movement on Ron Holland's recruitment. No visits, no nothing, no this, no that. And let me just say this. I think this is a very interesting story that is very interesting to discuss from both sides. Because on the one hand, while I sort of understand why Texas is making the decisions that they are and not officially have yet let him out of his letter of intent, I also don't think this is a very good look going forward. So let's start why I get Texas. Listen, I get Texas's perspective on why they're doing this, because if it was my school, if it was your school, if it was anybody's school, you would want your school to fight back, right? I mean, the most famous kind of allegation of tampering that actually got real pushback, if you remember last spring, was in football when Jordan Addison, the Biletnikoff winner, entered the transfer portal right before the deadline. And it was at that time that we immediately heard USC was the favorite. He was going to end up at USC. And Pat Narduzzi got on the phone, and Pat Narduzzi was not happy, and he called out Lincoln Riley and USC, whether he had proof or not. And so I defended Pat Narduzzi at that time. And ultimately, I'll defend any coach that is adamant that tampering is happening and has proof and is ready to go to the NCAA. Because I do believe, on the one hand, the only way to eliminate tampering is to bring it to the public light and have actual proof that something is happening. Here's where it gets a little bit complicated, though. And here is where I think Texas is being a little bit, they're just being a little bit difficult, I guess is the right word. What ended up ultimately happening with Pat Narduzzi and Jordan Addison and USC and that whole situation? Yeah, absolutely nothing. And Jordan Addison played at USC last year, and he was a first-round pick of the Minnesota Vikings out of USC. And so I'm not saying Texas shouldn't do their due diligence. I'm not saying if they believe tampering happened that they shouldn't be upset. What I am saying is I also do think there are a lot of variables that make me say, okay, Texas, we get the point. It's time to move on. The first one is, one, we don't even know if tampering has happened. And at the same time, there are very good reasons why Ron Holland would want to decommit. I understand that he stayed committed through the firing of Chris Beard and the hiring of Rodney Terry. But what also can't be denied is that the program that he committed to in October is completely different than the one that he was set to enroll in a month from now. You look at Texas, one, yes, they're coming off a Big 12 tournament championship. Yes, they're coming off an Elite Eight run. But listen, push comes to shove, and this is no disrespect to Rodney Terry. I went to bat for Rodney Terry and said I thought long before it was cool to say it that he should be named Texas' head coach. But there's a difference between playing for Chris Beard, who has been to a Final Four, multiple Elite Eights, all that good stuff, and playing for Rodney Terry, who this will be his first year full-time as a Power 5, Power 6 in basketball head coach. I get Rodney Terry. I've defended Rodney Terry. I think the narrative that he wasn't successful at Fresno State and UTEP, that doesn't take into consideration those are two really tough jobs. But you can't say that the situation hasn't changed, and you can't say that Ron Holland, in a year where he has to prove that he's a top 5 pick, he's allowed to have reservations. I think it's also important to note the team that he committed to has changed, and this is an important part that needs to be discussed. When Ron Holland was talking about how excited he was to play Texas, part of it was the opportunity to play with another 5-star named A.J. Johnson. He said publicly, me and him, like every high school kid does when they commit, me and him are going to Texas to win ourselves a national championship. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Go, shoot for the stars, reach for your dreams. I got no problem with that. By the way, I sounded like a bad poster that you hang over your bed right there. Shoot for the stars, reach for your dreams. At the same time, like I have no problem with players wanting the best or believing they're going to achieve the best. But A.J. Johnson, about 2-3 weeks before Ron Holland decommitted from Texas, A.J. Johnson himself decommitted from Texas and announced that he's going to go play overseas in the one season rather than play college basketball, essentially his one-and-done season he's going to go. So you're not only going with a new coaching staff, you're not only going to have a completely new team almost, because remember, Marcus Carr is gone, Timmy Allen is gone, most of the key players off last year's Elite Eight team are gone. You're also the player that you plan on playing with isn't going to be there. So I can completely forget tampering. I completely understand why Ron Holland is having second thoughts about going to Texas, especially when there's a lot of good alternatives out there. Arkansas is coached by a former NBA head coach. Eric Musselman has proven in a short amount of time that he can get guys to the NBA in 1 year. Did it with Anthony Black, with Nick Smith, Moses Moody, who's already an NBA champion. Oh, by the way, if there's other schools involved, Mick Cronin has put guys in the pros, Kentucky, John Calipari, G League Ignite, which I've talked about many times. Jason Hart runs that program. He was at USC forever. I know Jason Hart. That's a great player development guy, talent evaluation guy. He would do wonders with Ron Holland, and I have no doubt that he'd put him in position to have success and be drafted very high. So there's legitimate reasons why Ron Holland would decommit. And here's some quick thoughts about this whole situation as well. One, do you understand how hard it is to prove that tampering actually happened? Because tampering isn't what I think a lot of people think it is, although I think most people have gotten smarter about tampering over the last couple of years. Tampering isn't an assistant coach from another school reaching out to your high school coach, your AAU coach, and just saying, hey, how are you? Like if I'm Aaron Torres, assistant coach at, let's say, Central Connecticut, I'm allowed to reach out to Ron Holland's high school coach and just say, what's up? I'm allowed to reach out to his high school coach, maybe a parent if I'm family or friends. I'm just not allowed to say, hey, Ron Holland should decommit from this school and come play for me, okay? There is a difference between, listen, college basketball and college football and all, recruiting is a relationship business. And so if I'm a assistant coach at, say, again, let's just use a hypothetical Central Connecticut, whatever, and Ron Holland's high school coach, he might have other players. I might have coached some of his other guys. I might be recruiting some of his other guys. So it's perfectly normal for me to reach out. And again, to prove tampering, you have to have, it's basically like the court of law. You have to have indisputable proof that I reached out and I specifically said, hey, this player should decommit from this school and come play for me. I think it's going to be pretty hard to prove at that point. I would also add, even if you prove it, what ends up happening? Like if you actually prove tampering happened, you're still not getting the kid. So I'm not saying you shouldn't pursue it if you're Texas. I'm not saying you shouldn't look into it if you're Texas, but the kid isn't coming to you. I'm guessing he probably isn't going to help you very much. If he wants to go to Arkansas or Ignite or Kentucky or UCLA or whoever, Central Connecticut, to play for your guy Torres, it's not like he's going to go to Texas and say, yeah, Torres reached out to me about 3 weeks ago. Here's the text message. No, he's gone and it's time to move on. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about as I think about this is, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a weak move by Texas to be so adamant about this. Again, I get it, but think about the negative recruiting that it could have going forward. Do you think Texas isn't going to recruit against all the schools that are recruiting Ron Holland right now? I think those schools aren't going to use that as negative recruiting against you going forward. Oh, you can commit to Texas, but if plans change, if things change, whatever, you better be darn sure because they're not going to let you out of that letter of intent. They're going to make sure that it's impossible for you to go anywhere else. Negative recruiting works a lot of different ways. And the last thought that I really kind of have on this, and I think this is an important one too, I'd just be careful if I was Texas about the tampering stuff, because here's the thing. Did somebody probably tamper with Ron Holland? I think it's possible. But is it possible that Texas at some point since this portal thing became a thing has tampered with other people's players? I think that's possible as well. And I'm not accusing Texas of anything. What I am saying is this works every which way. Texas might be reaching out to the star player of your team, but your team, if it's a mid-major school, might be reaching out to the last guy on Texas's bench and saying, you're never going to play there. Come here. You could start for us right away. So the point I'm trying to make, tampering, it's a multi-way street. I've told this story on this podcast many times, but at the Final Four, Dusty May, there's a Dustin May and a Dusty May. I always get them confused. But the head coach of Florida Atlantic, he kind of said in passing, like, yeah, people are reaching out to our players to see, you know, would they consider transferring? And it became this big story. Oh, people are reaching out to Florida Atlantic's players. And he had to answer that question for about 2-3 days after. And he said, yeah, that's normal. Like, everybody does it. They're just reaching out to see, is there interest? Is there not? Is there this? Is there that? And so if I was Texas, just be careful. You throw stones at a glass house, make sure your own house is in order as well. So ultimately, I have no real fundamental issue with Texas kind of just looking in, making sure but I don't know what I don't think you're going to find definitive proof. Ron Holland still isn't coming. He ain't helping you, even if he does. And it's important to know, Texas, I love you. Rodney Terry, I love you. I went to bat for you, Rodney Terry, but there are legitimate reasons why this kid would decide to decommit